Focus to the steel sector, where 100 million tons of finished steel production. That's the milestone that the Indian steel industry is celebrating, and it has been helped by a mix of fall in Chinese steel exports as well as the measures that the Indian government has taken to protect the steel industry. Anshu Sharma has the report.
With its own iron ore and thermal coal reserves and cheap labour force, India was always a cost-advantaged place to manufacture steel. Nonetheless, India went from a largely balanced producer of steel up until 2013 into a sizable net importer in 2014 and 15. At its peak in October 2015, India's annualized net imports of steel was running at 10 million tons, sizable in the context of a 90 million ton annual consumption at the time. Since then, the tide is reversed, and how? Chinese steel net exports have fallen. India got 3% of China's steel exports in 2016 versus 4.3% in 2015. The government took many measures to protect the local industry. India became a net exporter of steel, and last but not the least, the Indian steel industry produced 100 million tons of finished steel last financial year. Looking at the reasons behind this rapid turnaround in fortunes, the one that really stands out is the decline in Chinese steel net exports. Chinese steel exports started to accelerate from late 2013, peaked in September 2015, and have fallen continuously ever since.
2016 we saw a net decrease in capacity of around 20 MTPA. However, at least over the next 5 to 6 years, the Chinese government has a plan to cut it down to 100 and 150 MTPA at least in 5 years. But we feel it needs to be actually a little more. We feel it needs to be closer to the range of 250 to 300 MTPA for really to become a sustainable supply-demand situation.
But it's not just the global factors which are at play. The government in the last year or so has also taken measures to protect the domestic industry.
In the budget 2015-16, custom duties were hiked from 10% to 15% on flat and long steel products. Later, in August 2015, additional 2.5% import duty was imposed on some steel products. A major push for the sector came in the form of reference price under the minimum import price on 173 steel products in February of 2016. And then in April of this year, a reference price for hot and cold rolled steel imports was recommended by the Anti-Dumping Duty Department. It's been a good turnaround for the Indian steel industry so far, but it will have to be watchful of what China does. China grew faster than expected in the first quarter of 2017 at 6.9% and recorded a steel output of 72 million tons just in the month of March. With an acceleration of output in China, both the government and the industry will have to be nimble to deal with global dynamics. In New Delhi, with Anshu Sharma, this is Shereen Bhan.